So we're back for the top five movies of 2019 now. And Dad, the trooper that he is after just having a neck surgery, is in for this. How are you feeling?
Uh, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the third week now, so
Yeah.
you know, it's still there, and I'm still not supposed to do things and all that other stuff. And it's
Well,
hard not to do stuff because there's just so many things that you can do that you're not doing something.
yeah, exactly. Well, at least this doesn't take much neck energy, hopefully. So let's start it off. So you started last week, so I'll start with my five now.
Okay.
My number five is Uncut Gems.
Yeah, I figured you were going to do that one. I was thinking about it because I really didn't know what I was doing with my number five and then my honorable mention thing.
Yeah.
And I did like the movie when I saw it. It just had like, I wouldn't say a slow beginning, but the beginning to me wasn't really that great.
Hmm.
It picked up later.
Yeah, it gets much more intense as it goes, but
Yeah.
overall, I would say the movie is extremely intense. Like, it's not one that I would go back and watch a bunch of times just because it makes you feel very anxious watching this movie.
Yeah, I know that the music too is like
Yeah,
pensive and stuff like that. I only saw it once.
yeah,
That the time after you recommended it.
yeah,
So this was, I guess, what 3 years now.
right.
But
But yeah,
when I first saw it,
but yeah, it's one of those movies I didn't see coming, and I don't think a lot of people did either. The
right, a
directed
very
by,
unlikely, uh, actor
yeah,
for the movie, but he turned
yeah,
out to be like really phenomenal.
not your typical Adam Sandler movie, but yeah,
Yeah,
he was amazing in this in a more or less dramatic role. There is a lot of humor in there just based on the situations. This guy who has a gambling addiction, among other things, but yeah, he really just kind of becomes this role of this guy Howard that owes money to these goons, and they're chasing him around, and then he's cheating on his wife. Like, to be such a scoundrel and still be this character that you care about, that's the magic of Adam Sandler. Like, actually, when you think about it, he's such a kind of a lovable guy. It helps going into the movie in that regard. But yeah, it's brilliantly directed by the Safdie brothers. And yeah, I don't want to give too much of it away, but man, the ending is like insane. And
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's a really intense movie, like you said. It's worth watching at least once.
right. Yes, for sure. Yeah, if you're a movie lover, and even if you don't like Adam Sandler movies in general, which I think you're not a big fan of his
No, I'm
comedies.
not, which was
Yeah,
surprising that I because I was hesitant to watch it, and then watching the beginning, I'm going, yeah, I'm right, yeah, and
yeah,
then then all of a sudden there's this change around,
yeah.
where the movie gets really good and he gets really good as an actor.
Yeah, and there's this interesting kind of like mystical thing to the movie about this, this precious rock, this
Yeah,
gem that he gets from Africa, that apparently does have this ability to give him good luck. Him and Kevin Garnett playing himself, the basketball player. Um, yeah, some of the side characters in this are just like surprisingly good as well. But yeah, it's a great movie. So if you haven't seen it by now, what are you waiting for? It's on Netflix. So what's your number five?
actually, it was a Netflix movie, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah,
Or was it?
I don't remember actually. Now that I think about it,
Because
how
I
it
think
came
I
out first.
saw it originally on Amazon.
You might be right, but it's on Netflix now. So
Yeah.
for now. So what's your number five?
I found this year to be weird
Yeah.
in that, this year compared to next year.
Mhm.
This was like the golden age of movies,
Yeah.
at least box office wise.
There was a lot of good stuff this year. Yeah.
First time ever,
Mhm.
9 of the top 10 movies grossed over $1 billion.
Wow. Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yep. Big drop off in 2020 for
Yes,
sure.
for different reasons, but
Yes.
yeah, it was like, it was almost like, like in 2008, when
Hmm.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the the housing crash
Hmm.
in 2008, it's like it reaches its height and then it crashes. And it's
Right.
almost like the same thing is happening here.
Yeah. So I'm guessing your number five is one of those $1 billion movies, right?
No, actually, it's not.
Okay.
But that's why I said it was like a weird year. And most of the movies were cartoon movies,
Uh-huh.
which we've had in the past also, but not, in the $1 billion category. So
Yeah.
anyway, this was one of the movies that I thought might possibly win the Academy Award, only because it was so different.
Okay.
And the Academy usually likes different movies,
Yes.
but the one that won was like really different. But
Indeed. Yes. Yeah.
so this is The Art of Racing in the Rain. This is
Oh,
based
okay.
on the novel by the same title. The book was written by Garth Stein. And the reason why it was unusual is that the book and the movie were narrated by a dog, Enzo.
Oh, okay. I know the movie now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I found, and this was one of the last movies actually that I've seen in a movie theater.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
was this nominated for Academy Award or no?
no, it was
I
not.
didn't. Okay.
Yes, it was. I don't think it was nominated,
Yeah.
but yeah. But in any case, it didn't win. But I mean, the story is like, yeah, it's like a normal type story.
Hmm.
It's like the guy is part-time race driver, part-time teaching racing. Uh, he gets married the day that his wife is giving birth to their daughter. He's out racing in a race, so
Hmm.
he misses the birth.
Yeah.
And then it winds up that later his wife is dying, and he's not really there to comfort her when she's dying. The dog is watching her dying, and the dog is narrating this whole story and thing like that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then
So,
the dog is like saying he knew that the wife was going to die because he smelt something rotten on her, and she wound up having a brain tumor and
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Dogs
then
have
winds
that
up
sixth sense. Yeah.
his father-in-law is suing him, for custody of the child and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And he was just about to, sign the papers, to give custody, and the dog like grabs the document, takes it outside, and chews it up and stuff like that. So
Okay.
it was like,
Sounds like
fun,
a
different movie.
imaginative movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, good pick. All right. I had not seen it. I'll have to check it out eventually. So all right. So my number four is debatable whether it counts as an actual movie, but I think it
One
does.
of these again.
No, no. Actually, in my book, it is, but it was
Okay.
released to streaming, which most movies are nowadays anyway. So it's El Camino, a Breaking Bad story.
Oh yeah, that's a movie.
Yes.
Of course, your best friend doesn't think it is.
Yes. So that's why I mentioned that.
Yes, okay.
Mark, if you're listening,
Yes,
we've
Mark.
confirmed it's a movie. And
I
it
think
is.
he's given up on this by now.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, it's a sequel to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, television show of all time, Breaking Bad. And it gives the ending to Jesse Pinkman's character that we all needed to see. Him having a better ending than he had in Breaking Bad, which was just escaping from the Nazis guys. This gets him at least a little further away, just a tad, to Alaska. But yeah, the whole movie is him essentially getting from there to there. He's got to raise enough money to give to the vacuum repairman disappearing guy, of course, played by Robert Forster, and which I believe was his last role before he passed away. And yeah, it's a great, it feels like a long Breaking Bad episode, which is what you want in that. And
Yeah, it was a sequel to a TV series.
Exactly.
Right, that was a movie.
And yeah, and you even have Bryan Cranston appearing for a flashback scene, which I hear that both he and Aaron Paul will make an appearance in this last season of Better Call Saul that just started last week. So tying that piece together as well. And they're talking about now doing a spin-off of the early days of Gus Fring now. So it just may never end. But
Okay.
I'm all for it, man. I love the Breaking Bad universe. And so this had to make my list.
Well, the universe apparently is just starting.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be able to spin off as much as Star Wars, but
You can never tell.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your number 4?
My number 4, speaking of Star Wars,
Ah,
yeah, the end of the triple trilogy.
oh, okay. It made your list.
Yeah.
The Rise of
Of
Skywalker.
Skywalker. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't like the story,
Mhm.
but I thought the story was right on because,
Yeah.
from the beginning, you were wondering who Rey's parents were,
Right.
why she was able to pick up the Force without even knowing about the Force,
Right.
able to handle a lightsaber, able to use the Force mind tricks and stuff like that,
Right.
without any difficulty. And all this is answered in
Yeah.
this movie.
Right. And yeah, it felt like this movie had to answer for all the questions that the second one in the Last Jedi raised. And that, all these Star Wars fanatics now, this would have never been an issue back with the first trilogy, but now you got all these people constantly talking about Star Wars and debating it to the point where I think it actually influenced what happened with the movie, because you're trying to appease all these fans.
Right.
And
I think J.J. Abrams did, an excellent job.
yeah, he did a good job. I think like the bringing Palpatine back may have been the biggest issue, as far as or at least it's showing that they couldn't think of anything better, and
Yeah, but if you think about it, by her being a Palpatine,
yeah, it
I
makes
don't think
sense.
we're like letting anything, because if
Yeah.
people haven't seen,
Oh, it's been
by
enough
now,
time.
they're never going to see
Right.
it. So, but by her being the grandchild of Palpatine, I mean,
Yeah.
it just explains everything.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And her having to confront Palpatine
Right.
in order to, go to the light side,
Right. Yeah.
and she had conflicts about that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watched some of the things that she did in the last episode, she was using dark force
Mm-hmm.
stuff. You know,
Right.
when she did the lightning and blew up that thing that, you know, the ship that she thought Chewbacca was in.
Yeah.
That's a dark force. That's
Right.
not a light force.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then doing the pushing thing
Mm-hmm.
that her and what's his name was doing
Kylo Ren. Yeah.
against each other. When
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what was that noise?
I don't know. It sounded like something fell and broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hope not.
Yeah. Yeah, those were dark forces.
Yes.
So she was doing dark force, you know, stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
she could have easily been converted to the dark force,
Sure. Yeah.
even though that she was like fighting it, and at the same time, you know, trying to convert him to the light side.
Yeah. Yeah. It all made sense, and they wrapped it up pretty well. And it's just like, it's so ridiculous in parts, but I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean and they had to be able to bring all the people from the other
Mm-hmm.
8
Right.
Star Wars franchises
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
into the picture.
Exactly. And
You know, even though they were dead.
Right. Yes. And like the cameo from Harrison Ford,
Yeah.
I was all about it, man. I was like, yes, this is the most Star Wars
Yeah.
movie
And
of all time.
him and his son, you know, make
Yeah.
up.
Right.
Know.
Yeah, it did a good job with all that. As ridiculous as some of it was,
Yeah.
I liked it. So I didn't like it as much as some of the others, but
Yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
still
she
good.
heals Kylo, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, with Kylo's like last
Yeah.
being, he heals her.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, so
We've given away all the spoilers.
no, I don't think those are really spoilers. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, seeing
If
the
you haven't seen
original
it.
Death Star, you know, and stuff like that, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah. Well, good pick. Okay. I'm surprised it made it. But yeah, didn't make my list. But
Oh, by
my
the way,
yeah.
it was $1 billion.
Of
And the
course.
Star Wars franchise as a whole
Mm-hmm.
grossed $10 billion.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Insane. Well, all right. Well, my number 3 probably did not make that much, but it was great nonetheless. The Irishman.
Yeah, we watched that together
We
at
did in
Andrea's
2 separate sittings.
at Andrea's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I was having like a bad night or something. I just thought that it just was boring to me.
Okay. It definitely was a bit too long. I'll give you that for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it didn't need to be over 3 hours long. I think, yeah, in the beginning, it takes a while to get where it needs to go. And the de-aging stuff, I think it mostly works, but in the early days when De Niro is supposed to be much younger, you can just tell the way he kind of labors around that he's in his body language that he's not.
Yeah,
So,
not the spry, you know,
yeah,
youngin that he used to be. I mean,
right.
I thought it was a good story.
Yeah.
It just seemed boring to me.
What made it for me, I thought, I mean, of course, you have these 3 Titan actors that the 3 of them had not been in a film together. So that was pretty incredible. But I thought of the 3, De Niro is probably the weakest performer in this particular movie. I thought Pesci was awesome, as always. And it was cool. Like, we hadn't seen him in a while. And then Pacino to me was the best. Like, he was just so over the top. That's what you want to see, is a over the top Pacino playing Jimmy Hoffa. and like the amount of cursing in this movie was through the roof. I think I had heard he used words in ways I had not heard before. So that's I think that's what I appreciated the most about it. And then you also had like some cool roles for Ray Romano and Sebastian Maniscalco, which was surprising. But they threw every Italian American they could in this movie, I think.
I was still alive.
Right. Yeah. And there's a classic scene that's unforgettable with Jesse Plemons, who was also in El Camino, of course, reprising his role as the creepy Todd. But in here, he's a different creepy guy that they're driving a car, and there's a whole thing of they're talking about a fish that he had just bought. And it's just ridiculous Martin Scorsese dialogue on the way to this, of course, classic murder scene. But yeah, I mean, it's not. It wouldn't make my top 5 Scorsese movies, but still, a
Yeah,
great
to
one.
me, is for a Scorsese film, it was kind of disappointing.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't watch it that many times just because of the massive length of it, but there was a lot to enjoy. So what's your number 3?
my number 3 is a mystery comedy,
Mm.
Knives
Ah,
Out.
that was a good one.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good one. And the sequel is supposed to come out this year. And actually, there's supposed to be 2 sequels.
Oh, cool. Yeah, great cast. I mean,
Yeah, it was a great cast. I mean, a lot of, Daniel Craig was in it, Jamie Lee Curtis was in it, Don Johnson was in it,
right.
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig, just him with that ridiculous Southern accent was
I know.
awesome.
Well, you're going to hear it again.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, he's got that sweater on, and yeah, he was great, and
Right,
almost like an unassuming great detective.
right. So the whole thing was, there was this young nurse that was taking care of Christopher Plummer,
Right.
and he is on the verge of death because of a mistake that
Right.
she makes.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to save her, he cuts his own throat.
Right.
So the premise of the movie is that he committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
However, somebody hired Daniel Craig, who's this famous detective,
Right.
to solve this mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know who hired him or why he is really there.
Right.
So he's like sitting in the background, listening to the police detectives,
Mhm.
try to sort this out. And, they find the guy, with his throat slit with a note. I mean, not with a note, with a knife, that has his fingerprints on, and it looks like, suicide. But nobody can understand, I mean, I don't even understand how somebody you commit suicide by slicing your throat. Mostly
Yeah.
nobody does that. So,
Right.
I mean, that's unique in itself.
Yes.
So before he slits his throat, he tells this nurse everything that she needs to do so that there's no suspicion drawn on her
Mm-hmm.
during the thing. So she believes that she killed him,
Right.
even
Yeah.
though he committed suicide and really ended his life.
And there's many twists and turns that
Yes,
come.
many twists and turns. And one
Yes.
of the big ones is that he revised his will and she is the sole heir to everything,
Right. Right.
which
And the family is
upsets the
pissed off.
family to no end. Yes.
Yes.
So that even adds more conflict to
Yeah.
everything that's going on in the movie.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, you don't see certain things coming, certain people being good or bad. Everyone has kind of shades of gray in this movie.
Yes.
But
I mean, if it was a murder, it's like Murder on the Orient Express. Everybody had a reason to kill him.
yeah. And this was directed by Ryan Johnson, who directed this The Last Jedi. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so good stuff.
So another Star Wars connection in the year that Star Wars ended.
Indeed, yes.
Even the your beloved little Ewoks were in the movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was so happy when that happened. That was like my Star Wars youth coming full circle, man. Yes. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at that Star
I
Wars
know.
movie.
No,
Yeah.
I think that was in there. I think that was the Death Star.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Good stuff. All right, it all comes back to Star Wars. All right, so my number two, I think we may have this movie in common because I know you really enjoyed it. Is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
No,
Really?
it's not on my list.
It was way high on your Tom Hanks top five
Yeah, I
when
know it
we did that
was.
episode.
Yes, and I do really like that movie.
I'm surprised.
I
Okay.
know,
Well, yeah.
but no, it did not. It did not make my list.
So this was a strong year in movies, apparently.
Yes,
So yeah, this was we've talked about it before, but Tom Hanks in the role of Fred Rogers, which I was a little concerned going into it because I'm like, how is he gonna pull that off exactly? But he really does, even though like it's Tom Hanks doing it, but he somehow
yeah. I'll
you
tell you
know,
what, it wasn't really a movie about the TV show.
right. No, it's
Yeah,
about this guy having this crisis in his life
right,
that was going to interview the great Fred Rogers, and
right.
it's not exactly based on a true story necessarily, but there's elements of, I'm sure, a lot of people that have met him in real life. They just they all talk about how he made you feel better and like you were the only person in the room, and he basically takes this guy under his wing and makes
And
him,
heals him basically
yeah, exactly.
from his trauma.
Yeah, which had a lot to do with issues with his dad, who was played by Chris Cooper, and he heals that relationship as well
Right.
in the process.
Yeah, it was just amazing the way that he did it.
Yeah,
Being Mr. Rogers.
right. Yeah, and there's I mean, there's some amazing scenes. There's one scene in particular where it's just Tom Hanks in a moment of silence that's literally just 1 minute of him staring at the camera, but you feel like he's just staring into your soul as a viewer of the movie. So it's like it's got some incredible stuff. And overall, I really do think it was one of the best of that year. So yeah, that's my number two. So what is your number two now?
My number two is besides being a huge Star Wars fan,
Uh-huh.
I am also a huge Downton Abbey fan.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
So
this is a Downton Abbey movie that was a sequel to the TV series.
just like El Camino.
Exactly. So I'm giving additional support to El Camino being a movie.
All right, then I give support to your Downton Abbey, which I have never seen.
Yes. And you should see that. Instead of watching, the same things over and over again, try to expand your TV watching to
Yeah,
different things. I mean, Downton Abbey was a great TV series.
yeah, I've heard. So this movie is just called Downton Abbey, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And there's going to actually the sequel's supposed to be out this year to the movie.
Okay.
So it does have a sequel. Actually, it's supposed to be out this month if they didn't change it.
Yeah.
So film is set in 1920. For people that don't know, for the few people in the world that have never seen Downton Abbey, this takes place in the early 20s.
Uh-huh.
And, it's about a rich family, that's living in this castle. And, and it goes through the time period, basically, that they're going through. And, that really happened in that time period, where now these rich families that weren't necessarily rich, but because they kept inheriting these properties from, their parents or their uncles, there was, a lot of them are struggling to keep the properties.
Right. They
have to either, sell some of their farms or whatever, or to, like in Downton Abbey in the TV series, they had to have some of the castle dedicated to people coming in to pay admissions to see the house.
Uh-huh.
But anyway.
Sounds super boring, by the way.
But anyway, I digress. So in this film, it takes place in 1927.
Mm-hmm.
The King George V and his wife, Queen Mary, are coming to visit Downton Abbey on the way going to another destination.
Mm-hmm.
So besides all the things going on with the characters that normally happen in Downton Abbey, one of the things is one of the people that live in the house, he was Irish by descent, and he was an Irish rebel early on in Downton Abbey. So there was some reason to believe that with the king coming, that he may do something to harm the king.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this another Irishman that comes in with the intent to exactly harm the king. And then there's other things about inheritance and all this other stuff. It's really good. It's the way the characters interact with each other that make it what it is. And I can't explain it, but you have to watch it to understand it. It's like, it's like Breaking Bad in a way. If it was just about him being a cook, right, the TV show would have been boring. It's how he interacted with certain characters, how the characters interacted with him,
right,
and how the other stories became from those stories. So it's that type of thing.
I'll get around to it. So do you have to see the TV show before you see the movie, or no?
It would be better if you did, only because then you would understand the relationships between the characters.
Gotcha.
It's like there's one character, she's old and she's a duchess, and she does all these quips. She's always like doing quips on people. Yeah. And she has a counterpart person, and she tries to be the other side to calm her down and make things right from what she says, but she's got a mind of her own and she says exactly what she says, but it's the way she says things. Okay. So they have all these characters that do things and they all mesh together. A lot of it has to do with the the staff, the butler, the cooks, the
Yeah.
people that serve, they're all interrelated in a sense.
Right. I don't know. Old 1920s British stuff doesn't really. Aside from Monty Python poking fun at old British stuff, I'm not that into it. But maybe I'll check it out one day. So, all right. So we're down to our number ones. It looks like we're going to have none in common this year, which I'm surprised by.
Yes, we will not have none in common tonight, because I guarantee you did not pick my number one.
Yeah, probably not. I think I might be able to guess what yours is, but I'm not 100% sure now. But mine is Marriage Story.
I did not see it. It was on my list.
Oh, really?
It was on my list to watch, and I was hedging back and forth because one of my favorite actresses in it, obviously, and the guy that plays
another Star Wars connection, Kylo Ren. Yeah.
Yes. So you have an Avenger and you've got a Star Wars player in the movie. So I was very tempted.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So I intend to, but I haven't seen it as of yet.
Yeah, you need to see this because it's I mean, yes, the movie revolves around this divorce. It's called Marriage Story. It should really be called Divorce Story.
Right, which is one of the reasons why I didn't watch it.
Yeah, but
because I knew it was about a divorce.
Yeah,
but it was the way they handled the divorce.
Right. It's very, it has intense moments, but there's also a lot of comedy throughout the movie. It's one of these movies that has a little bit of everything. And also the way that the divorce is handled is done so to the most that it can be in like a loving manner. And of course, there's also a little kid involved. So for like anyone who's been through a divorce on any side of it, you're going to connect to it in some way. But Scarlett Johansson is amazing. Like the acting in this, I think it's both of them at the top of their game. Like acting wise, she's incredible. Adam Driver is incredible, especially this one scene where one of the few scenes where it gets very intense with them yelling at each other. And but most of it is just especially like if you've been through a divorce and like having to deal with the attorneys and like the ridiculousness of it, of having to sue the other person. And Alan Alda plays one of the divorce lawyers, and he's hilarious in the movie. But yeah, it's directed by Noah Baumbach, who for whatever reason, a lot of his other movies have to do with family issues and families falling apart. But I think this is the best one that he's done. And you can tell he put a lot of his heart and soul into it from his own experience. So yeah, definitely recommend it. And I think it would have probably made your list if you had seen it, I think. So what is your number one?
Well, now that you know that I'm a big Star Wars fan and a big Downton Abbey fan.
How do those worlds meet? Old British people in space.
Now, I'm also a big Avenger fan.
Oh, Jesus, yes, okay.
No, Jesus is not in it.
He might as well be.
He could be. The Avengers End Game.
I thought that it was over already. So Infinity War was not the last
game
one.
Over in the last one.
So this is so far the last Avengers movie, right?
Yes. This is so far.
Thank God.
The last Avenger movie, unless they do something, I have no idea. But yes, so this is Avenger End Game. Game over completely.
Okay.
So everybody is, after the first one, when half the universe is dead, this includes animals and humans.
Okay.
half life in the universe is wiped out with the snap of a finger by Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is now like trying to get along with their lives, what's left of it. You know, some people have lost like their whole family and stuff. It wasn't like an even 50-50 split, but some people lost more than other people. An accident happens.
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man, who happened to be in the quantum state when all this was going on and was supposed to be rescued by his wife, that
Mm-hmm.
never happened. This takes place, I think, 7 years after, you know, everybody on the planet disappears. He miraculously pops out of the quantum state,
Right.
and he finds out, you know, what happened to everybody. And he finds out which Avengers are left. And he comes up with the theory that they might be able to reverse what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the way to do it would be to build a time machine.
Of course. A DeLorean.
A DeLorean. No, they did not use a DeLorean, or that was mentioned.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, Back to the Future was mentioned in the thing, because as they were talking about it, the Hulk survived. So he was trying to explain that if they went back in the future, they wouldn't be able to do certain things and stuff like that. And then they said something about, but they did it in Back to the Future.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
go, yes, but that was a movie and that would happen. And they go, Back to the Future was a lie.
That's awesome, actually.
I know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of comedy and
Oh, yeah.
in these things that you miss because you don't watch them, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So Tony Stark is now settled with his daughter and his wife, living in the country someplace on a lake, and he doesn't want to get involved. But after he's presented with this, he starts thinking about it. And of course, in Tony Stark fashion, he can't put anything down. So he, in fact, makes a time machine that he thinks works. So
Mhm.
they're in the process of testing it and stuff like that.
All right.
So
Well-
I'm not going to say whether they did or they didn't. But I will say that
Even though we've given so many spoilers to
I
every
know,
other
but
movie in
I
this
will say
episode.
that this is a spoiler also, but I will say that 2 Avengers do give their life in order to try to make this thing work.
See, I told you Jesus may have well have been in this. Sacrificial Avengers. Well, very good.
Sacrificial Avengers, yes.
All right. Well, yeah, actually, I'm not surprised that that's your number one now. I wasn't even thinking of Avengers. But I was thinking that one of my honorable mentions might have been your number one.
Now,
And that's Ford versus Ferrari. Almost made my list, but didn't quite make it. But that was a really fun movie with Matt
right,
Damon.
that didn't make my list either. I was thinking about it as doing and my honorable mention, but
Mhm.
I didn't do it as my honorable mention either.
Wow. Yeah, see, a lot of good movies this year. I actually have 2 honorable mentions because
Right.
I wanted to say that one and the one that you kind of alluded to as being a very different movie that won the Academy Award, which is Parasite.
Right.
It is such a crazy movie that you have to mention it. And it was actually really good, I
Was
thought.
it really?
You
Yeah,
haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you got
It's
to see that.
also a movie that, see, a lot of the movies I can't watch unless Barbara watches them.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah, I do the same with Katya. I usually screen something that I'm not sure if she'll like it or not,
Right.
to see if she really will.
So, so that was the reason why I didn't watch Parasite, because I would
Yeah,
figure that this wouldn't be a movie that you would want to watch.
probably.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
I mean,
But
she did like, uh, now I can't even think of the name of the movie.
yeah.
It wasn't a movie, it was a series on Netflix, uh, something game.
Oh, Squid Game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she did like that. She didn't like it
Oh,
in the beginning, but
all
she
right.
got into it as it went along. And again, that
Interesting.
was like another, you know, Asian type movie,
Hmm.
where, it was made in Korean, but
Hmm.
it was
Yeah.
dubbed in English.
Yeah, the subtitle thing, like you get past that very quickly, but
Yeah, but the thing
this,
is, you understand, when she's watching a movie, she's not watching the movie.
yeah.
She's like knitting or she's doing something on her phone. She's
Right.
listening to the movie.
Yes.
So if the movie's not in English, that that cancels the movie
That's a
out.
problem.
It's
Yeah.
not a movie that she's watching,
I see.
even though she's not really watching.
Yeah. Well, I have to say though, Parasite, it's possible because there's so much interesting visually going on, especially the violent parts, but I won't give that away. But
Right,
yeah,
but if you're knitting, you're not
yeah,
watching. See?
that's
And if you're
exactly
on your phone,
knitting.
playing a game or whatever, you're
Yeah,
not watching.
right.
So visually
Absolutely.
is out too.
Okay.
It's the listening part.
I got you. All right. Well, yeah, we'll see Parasite on your own time. But what was your honorable mention before we do this list?
All right. Well, now you know that, let's start from the beginning. Dad,
Yeah.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. Now I lost my thing.
You're a big Star Wars, Downton Abbey, Avengers fan.
Right. And I'm also a big Tolkien fan.
Ah, wow.
Now
Tolkien did
it's
not
only,
make your top five.
I don't think it made anybody's top five, probably not anybody's top 100.
Yeah.
But since, not only that, I've seen The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and read the books, I've also read The Silmarillion.
Hmm.
I've also uh, read, and all the books in there, plus stories that were in there as separate books.
Yes.
And I have a whole Tolkien collection besides. So my honorable mention was the movie Tolkien,
Oh, okay. I was
which
like,
is
I didn't
which
know
is
if one came
which,
out that year. Yeah.
yes, which is the story of his early life. And
Okay.
the reason why I say probably nobody else saw this movie
You're
is
probably right.
because it cost $20 million to make, and it
Hmm.
made 9 million.
Wow. That's not so good.
No, not really. So, but the movie to me was very interesting
Okay. Yeah, I'm
because
sure.
he was fatherless.
Hmm.
His father died when he was very young. His mother then died when he was very young.
Yeah.
So this minister brought him up until a very wealthy woman took him and his brother in and stuff like that.
Hmm. Okay.
So he was raised on, his mother telling him stories about, knights and the round table and things like that and stuff.
Right.
So he was like interested in it. And like when he was in high school and stuff like that, he had like, four guys that he hung out with, and they were into like stuff like that and stuff too. And then when he finally got to college, he took up, he had an ear for language, especially like Old English, like Chaucer, Old English stuff.
Right, right.
And, like the teacher thought he wasn't paying any attention in class. So, he called on to read the next part of Chaucer, and he didn't read it, he recited it.
Right. Yeah. Pretty wild.
Like where the previous people that were reading it had stumbled pronouncing it, and he pronounced it like perfectly and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it was his world.
He did his studies based on that and stuff, and then he fought in World War I. Almost died and stuff like that. But all those experiences he used to write.
Right.
The movie ended with him writing The Hobbit, but he was using all those experiences to write The Hobbit and then The Lord of the Rings.
Very cool. Interesting. I might actually need to check that out.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, cool. Well, yeah, so we have none in common on this one. I've done the math as we were talking, and Marriage Story versus Avengers. Marriage Story has a 4.0 and Avengers only has a 3.9. So,
really?
Yes.
I thought Avengers had a 4.2. Maybe I misread it.
Maybe you picked the wrong Avengers. Because Avengers End Game has a 3.9 on Letterboxd. So Marriage Story gets number 1, Avengers at 2. Then between Downton Abbey and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I win again, 3.6 to 3.4. And now Knives Out versus The Irishman.
They must have changed things. I mean, I'd done this a while back, but I could have sworn that those numbers were all higher.
They may have changed, I guess, if it's been a while. But Downton Abbey, 3.4. But you do win the third one by just a little bit. Knives Out is a 4.0 versus The Irishman at 3.9. So our top 5 favorite movies of 2019 are: at number 5, Knives Out; at number 4, Downton Abbey; at number 3, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood; at number 2, The Avengers End Game; and at number 1, Marriage Story. Yeah. Not a bad list. A lot of different things accounted for there, as usual.
Yeah, I mean, not like last week. And last week was odd because, we haven't had things in common in a long time.
Yeah, that was definitely different. 2020 should be very interesting as well, because there wasn't a lot to choose from that year.
I know. Maybe we should just do a top 2.
No, there was some gold there if you dig for it. But we'll get to that on the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks. So stay on the lookout. But in the meantime, if you like this, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you then. All right. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. Bye.